This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Roger Blankenship. What's going on, Roger?
Hey, not much, not enough, but, we keep pushing.
I hear you. It's all you can do, right?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Hey, so Roger, why don't you give everybody a little bit of background on everything you're involved with and what you do?
Oh, wow. Okay, well, people ask me, why I got involved in real estate investing, and I tell them sheer desperation and a lack of communicable job skills. When I was just 40 years old, in my prime, I had spent my previous, career, 15 years or so, in the ministry, and my wife announced to me that she was going to leave me. And that left me with, searching for a new career. In our circles, that's what happens. You can't have a divorce and continue on. So, I had already bought a couple of rental properties, and I owned some flips, so I just got into the business. Now, that's when you said background, I thought I'd give you that background. And over the years, I have flipped. I've done just over 2,000 single-family homes, and I've fixed and flipped more than 1,500 of them. I've done some wholesales, and I've bought a couple hundred rental properties along the way as well. And then in 2017, we were asked to launch the Flipping America show, and it took 2 months for them to talk me into it. I felt like it was going to take my time, and long story short, it's a decision I'm glad I made. Today, the Flipping America show is heard on the radio coast to coast 3 times a week, and we turned that into a podcast starting in 2019. And I do meetings I used to do a meeting at a local restaurant right not far from where I live in Midtown Atlanta. And I invited people just to come by and talk real estate at lunch, sort of like an informal meetup group, that sort of thing. And a gentleman started coming who was instrumental in starting the Georgia RIA and the Atlanta RIA. And he encouraged me to start thinking about turning this into a RIA, because we were having 35 to 50 people every single week with no promo. Just show up if you want to. And so we launched the Flipping America RIA in 2020, and then we hit the pandemic, But I wasn't really sure how that was going to play out. We had this idea in our mind that local groups and chapters would meet around the country and then join us for a Zoom call. And we immediately ran into technical problems trying to do a Zoom call with the restaurant's Wi-Fi. Not a good thing. And so we were trying to figure that out, but then it got all shut down. So we went to virtual only, and man, it exploded. I don't even know how these things happen, Brian. I'm just glad I'm along for the ride. But we started doing the live virtual meetings every Wednesday and every Thursday, just like I used to do my lunch meeting, and we had started doing a dinner meeting, and just basically hang it out. Well, today, that Flipping America RIA group is 43 chapters across the country from Maine to Honolulu, and 22,300 members as of this morning.
That's a lot.
I'm blown away by how it happens. And so, along the way, everybody that has, any kind of spreadsheet skills, they sort of jump out there and do their own deal analyzer, right? And I created a deal analyzer that allows us to take a phone call and put the information in there, and then it will suggest multiple creative deal structures. It's a creative deal structure analyzer. And I thought that was pretty cool, and that became a product that we sold for a while called Flip Calcs. I also invented something called the investment property grade, where we took, you've got your profit and you've got your return on investment, but there are other intangibles when you're thinking about buying a property that, that they're not easily quantified. And so we took things like the quality of the neighborhood, the difficulty of the rehab, and the distance from our home office. And we rolled all of those things, and you answered questions. It's really just 5 things that we settled on at the end. And you would rate them 1 to 5, and then we weighted those differently, and then we added a weighting factor to the profit and the ROI, and came up with a number that we then used simple range function in Excel and created a letter grade. Then we turned that into an app that was in the App Store for a while called the Flipping America Investment Property Grade. You put in your numbers, and it gives the property a grade. That was fun, but I gave it away, and it kept on costing me more money every year to update the app to conform to whatever the new platform requirements were. So
Right.
we don't do that anymore. But that thinking, along with our phone call thing, is being rolled into a new product that's coming out called Flipping America Go, which will basically, when you type in an address, we call it deal analysis for the busy investor, or deal analysis for the lazy investor. But when you type in the address, it will use an API call and go get all the information about the house. It will automatically run comps. Trust them a little bit. Trust them completely. You know how that is.
Yeah.
And then you will have already set up, you will defined the criteria that, in your opinion, makes this a good deal, whether it's a flip or a hold or a short-term rental or a seller financing. We do a lot of seller financing here as a way of generating cash flow. And once you've established the criteria, when you type in the address, it goes and measures this property against all of those criteria, and then tells you whether it passes or fails in each of those areas. And that gives you a red light, yellow light, or green light on each of the exit strategies or exit possibilities. And so I say, when you see a green light, go.
That's pretty cool. So you're saying it can analyze it based on, like, my investment strategy is different than other people in Pittsburgh. So maybe my investment strategy is I want properties local to me, like within 2-mile radius, versus everyone else in the whole city. So you can put in your specs that you're looking for, and it will give you the A to an F, or green, yellow, red.
Well, yeah. Well, we don't have the property grade thing rolled into Go just yet. We're just trying to get to in the software world. Man, I'm learning a whole lot about software development. They have something called MVP. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah.
I think of most valuable player, but it's minimum viable product.
Right.
And so the property grade is not going to be in the MVP for Go. What it really is going to do is just allow you to plug in an address, and it tells you whether to go for a certain property. Now, there will be a button where you can dig in a little bit, and you can add more comps or throw out some that really weren't comps, because, it depends on your knowledge. But in your case, Brian, you would only be putting in the properties that are near you anyway.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So so you got started doing radio and you rolled it into a podcast versus doing it backwards, right? Because you're on a lot of different radio stations nationally.
Yeah.
Different cities.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's expanding this year too, with this new production company that we're in negotiations with. We may be on more than 100 AM/FM stations in another 3 or 4 months. That's exciting.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, because most people, I don't talk to many people that are on the radio now, but you get such a large reach on the radio.
Yeah. Radio's not dead. For me, it's something I listen to in the car only.
Right.
Because you have so many other options for listening to music when you're at home. I never even think about turning on the radio to listen to music at home. But, yeah.
That's cool. So now you talk about on your show, you're talking about, like, pretty much people getting into real estate, mistakes they can look for, funding deals, things like that. Like,
yeah.
What do you see a lot of beginners? Which mistakes do you see them making?
The most common mistake that I see is people pay too much for a property. And we've come out of the last 5-year run up in prices where you can buy it for almost anything, and just the way double-digit appreciation is going to kind of protect you. And even then, though, I've seen some people make mistakes, and I think a lot of these people go and they pay, $40,000 or $50,000 from some hotel room guru, and they've got all this information and this enthusiasm about this new business they're starting, and they spend all that money, and they have to justify spending that money, and so they'll take the first deal that comes along. I can't tell you how many times people have sat in my little room at the restaurant and said, well, that first deal, we didn't make any money, but we sure learned a lot. And I would say, didn't you just pay $50,000 to learn a lot? I don't think you need to learn a lot after that. Rather than spending $50,000, just go buy a house. If you lose $50,000 or if you lose $30,000 on it, it's cheaper than paying $50,000, and I bet you'll learn more. We do a coaching program, but it's different than anything out there because, and I'm an educator by heart. I have a master's degree in education. I've been a college professor. And I am all about education, but I know that in this business, you're only going to learn it when you do it. I can give all these courses and beautiful outlines and PowerPoint presentations and so forth. It's not going to stick. My students, it starts to stick when they're out there. And it's funny because they'll come in and they'll have a question about this or that. And I'll say, well, we covered that in a particular course, blah, 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 blah. Oh, remember that, man? Well, that's true, and I don't blame them. So we're shifting away from the classroom instruction model and just getting them out there and getting hands-on.
Yeah, and that's true, too. You learn by doing. I know a lot of people, when they're just getting into the business, they get stuck in their head. I got to do this. I got to do this. Go find the property. If you get the property right, everything else will fall into place. You'll figure it out.
Right. So I actually created another course called the Real Estate Investing Quick Start. It's 15 lessons, and it's designed to have you making offers in 2 weeks.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah. And I say, you won't feel ready, and you won't be ready, but I'll show you enough about making the offer so that you can get out if you need to. You can jump on a coaching call with me, and we'll run the numbers. If you manage to get one under contract, we'll run the numbers, and we'll try to keep you from making a colossal mistake.
Right. And that's huge too. And yet, just go, anyone listening that's thinking about getting into this and stuck in, what do they call it? Paralysis, analysis by paralysis, right?
Yeah.
Just jump in the pool. The water's fine. You'll swim. You just got to go out and do it, because you can look at comps and analyze numbers all day long. If you don't talk to sellers, you're not getting anywhere.
Right. Right. And yeah, and that's a big first hurdle too. I think you've probably seen this too, Brian. The biggest hurdle is getting your first deal, right?
Yeah.
So I actually wrote a book on finding deals, but just a little ebook. But what I tell people to do now is, in addition to talking to everybody that you meet, talk to your family members extended. Maybe someone in your family has a house that they want to sell, and this might give you your first opportunity with a little bit more of a flexible seller, so you could, and family members and friends are a good place to go get the money too.
Right. That is, very true. Yeah. And it's all even with your group and everything too, surround yourself with good people, and successful people too. In the real estate space, you can find people that are seasoned, just like you, they can hang out with you, Roger. People want to help. People that have succeeded, I've found, want to help people get into the business if you're motivated and have the drive.
That's funny. I just wrote an email this morning to my list, and I reminded them of one of my driving passions. People that listen to me have heard this before many times. In Simon Sinek's book, Know Your Why and all that. One of my whys is, I know that people want to get out here and they want to build a business and they want to own a business and they want to have discretionary income and free time. But I know that most of the people don't want to do that just so they can sit around and do nothing or engage in conspicuous consumption. A lot of them want to have the money to support a charity or a foundation or something good that they want to do. And so one of the things that really fires me up is, if I can help you build a business that allows you to have $1 million extra or even $1,000 extra to give to some charity, whether it's local or national, whatever, that does some good in the world, then I will be participating in hundreds of points of light, and helping make the world a little bit better. And if I can multiply that by helping others who want to do that, then yeah, that's what fires me up, keeps me going.
Yeah, I like that too. I always look at that. It's like you get a return on. Everyone's looking for a return on or an ROI. You're getting a return on donation, a return on helping them. You help one person, it's like a snowball.
Yeah,
they help that, and it compounds.
Yeah, I call it the ROE, return on effort.
Yeah, and that is true too, because you help that one person, they get involved with the charity or whatever.
Yep,
their efforts are now a byproduct of what you did. You help them, and then it compounds.
Right. And so I didn't do the bulk of the work, and I just played a very small role. But if I can play a very small role in 1,000 people having a better life and, making a better community, then I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you say? Well, first, you have a buyers club too, right?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, we started buying these houses in 2018. At that time, you could get rundown houses in upper Midwestern communities, not so much in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a little bit nicer, but a lot in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Indiana and Illinois. We could buy houses for, $10,000 to $15,000. And we did some of this in Michigan too. Well, actually 28 states. If you look at my license tags over there, there's a license tag on the wall for every state where we've bought one of these. Anyway, we buy the house. Let's say we buy a house for $15,000 and it needs some work. Yes, it does. But we're not going to go work on it. I mean, it's in Illinois. What we're going to do is we're going to study what the fair market rent would be for that house if it were in good shape. And let's say that number is $700. And so we're going to put it out there for $450 a month for 10 years. Own it. Or maybe 500. I've written a little calculator where you can play with the numbers to try to get to your desired return. But if you're in it for $15,000 and you get $500 a month for 10 years, you're going to end up making about a 35% average annual return on that $15,000 investment. That ain't bad.
Right.
So we started that, and I started doing it myself, and then I suddenly got more of these than I could afford to buy. I mean, it's only 10 or 15,000 at a pop, but after a while, you run out of 10 or 15,000s. So the guy sitting next to me one day said, "Well, I'll buy them. I'll buy them from you." I said, "Okay." And so I immediately sold him 5 houses. And I said, "Just let me mark them up a little bit." I had to jump through a lot of hoops. I'm in a VIP program with auction.com. And it didn't cost me anything except a lot of experience, and I had to jump through some hoops. Anyway, he said, "Sure, mark them up. The numbers still work. That's fine." So I'll mark them up a couple $1,000s. And then I had an idea. Back in 2018, I could find 20 or 30 of these every week. Why don't I start a club? And first I started a mailing list. I said, "Hey, you might want to buy these properties, get on my list." But the challenge there is when I'm dealing with the auction company, I have to put them under contract. Okay, so 140 people signed up for my mailing list, and I confidently went out and put 13 properties under contract. But I was running low on cash. I had enough money to do maybe 3 or 5 of them, but not enough to do all 13. Well, I sent it out to my 140 people list. No one bought any. Not one. And it was a disaster, man, because if I don't close, once I put them under contract, if I don't close, I get kicked out of the VIP program, and I don't have this inside access anymore. So that was stressful. So that's where the idea of the club eventually came from. You pay me $1,000 to join the club, and that's $1,000 a year. But every year when you buy your first house, I'll credit that $1,000 back to you, because I'm not really so much interested in the fee. I'm just interested in having serious buyers, not tire kickers. Because if all of those 140 people had put $1,000 in, I would have enough money to close on all 13 of those properties.
Right.
So that's where it started, and we've been doing it. We've done 250 houses like that over the last couple of years. The inventory dropped off considerably in 2021 because there weren't any foreclosures. Nothing was coming into the auction houses pipeline. It's starting to pick back up now, but last year we started expanding our reach. We started buying houses in the 30,000 range. And not only has the inventory dropped, but the prices have gone up. And what we can get in the 30,000 range is what we used to be able to buy for 10 or 15. But in the 30,000 range, this financial model doesn't work. I could go into it, but you know what a 1%er is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for this to work, you really have to be in the property at like a 4% rate.
Okay.
So essentially you're buying for 15 and your sales price will be 60.
Right.
And we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. You talk about diving in before you really have everything figured out. We started to do the seller financing today, and my accountant said, "Excuse me, Raj, if you seller finance the property, you have to claim all of the gain in the first year and pay income tax on it."
That's nice.
Man.
Yeah.
So we turned them into contract for deed.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we're buying these $30,000 houses that might be worth 90 or 100,000. And so we're starting to seller finance them on a 30-year note. And the difference here is rather than do a contract for deed, we're using a licensed mortgage originator and having another company, a servicing company, collect the payments and, like for real. These people have to qualify. The people buying the really super cheap houses that needed work, they were not always on the grid kind of people. In fact, they hardly ever were.
Right.
So we had a lot of interesting situations and still do. But now we're selling these houses to more qualified buyers. Fine. Then we got a little bug put in our ear about a done-for-you fix and flip service. So we're adding that into the mix in the Buyers Club.
Okay, yeah. So you have all the different types of properties for the different type of people.
Yeah.
Hey, auction.com, how does that work? They list a house up on there at auction.com, and then you just bid on it, and if you win, it's yours, right?
Yeah, the difference is in the VIP program, there's only 15 people in it nationwide. In this program, we get an email with a spreadsheet that has all of the properties that are going to be auctioned in the next week or so. And the advantage there is we can sort that. We can sort it by price. We can sort it by location. It's a lot faster than waiting through page after page to load up on auction.com. Now, auction.com's website is not bad. And the interesting thing is the guy that runs this is on the advisory board for both auction.com and Zome.com. So we get Zome data too. And we can sort through, we can find houses. I bought a house in some little town in Wisconsin. I can't think of the name of it right now. I promise you I would have never searched auction.com for that town name because I'd never heard of it. Right. And that's true of a lot of these little houses that we have. They're in small towns and remote locations. And at first I was very nervous thinking, man, how am I going to sell this thing? But you know what? Almost every town has people and people want to live there for whatever reason. And it's been surprisingly easy to sell most of them. We get some dogs every once in a while.
Yeah. You have it probably in a rural, right? Rural areas?
Yeah. And so I don't feel like I've answered your question, but the other advantage of the VIP program is, if you go bid on auction.com, you have to put up $2,500 on every property that you bid on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they hold it in escrow. They give it back to you if you don't win the bid, but you have to put up $2,500 to bid. Well, we're bidding on 40 or 50 houses a week, and that would be a prohibitive amount of money.
Right.
Money I wouldn't really want to have just sitting there. So because we are under a tremendous amount of pressure to move quickly and close once we win the bid, they will we're excused from that requirement.
Okay, cool. Now, if people want to work with you, what's the best way to connect?
Flippingamerica.net is our website. It's easy to find. If you just Google Flipping America, it'll be on the whole, it'll probably take the whole first page of search results. But on the website, you could scroll down to the bottom, and there's a place to schedule a strategies call with one of our coaches. But I will tell you that for at least January and probably February, I am taking all of those calls myself. So, we've got some coaches that are standing by and ready to go, but I've got a little time on my hands right now, and I like to get back in there and get personal contact with people. I like talking to people. And so just go there, schedule a strategy call. I'll give you 30 minutes of my time. What we'll do is I'll ask you some questions to kind of see where you are and make a recommendation to see where you might want to go. It's not a sales call. I suck at sales. It's a help call.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll have that website in the show notes. So anybody who wants to reach out, check it out. Hey, Roger. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And
all right, everyone, hey, thanks for listening. Yeah, get out there, crush it, close some deals.
Yeah, I would ask everybody, please, whatever podcast platform, go listen to our show and give us a review and a like and a subscription and all that.
You know what? That's right too, Roger. How can they find your show?
It's everywhere. It's on every podcast platform out there: Spotify, Apple, iHeart, 35 internet sources. Plus, the shows get posted on our website. Plus, we have our own app, the Flipping America app, which you can download and listen to the show directly from there. You can even set it as an alarm clock to wake up listening to my voice. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but the app builders put it in there.
Hey, Roger, what's your favorite book?
Oh, man. All right. Ever? That would be hard. I read 120 books last year.
You recommend?
A business book?
Whatever you want.
Oh, man. Well, okay. First of all, I'm going to say everyone should read the Bible. And
good one.
If I can have another one, if it's a business book, I would say probably everybody should read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but they also ought to read the 10X book by Grant Cardone.
Okay.
But I'll tell you this, you haven't heard of this next one I'm going to recommend. My friend Jack Gibson from Indianapolis just wrote a book called Indestructible Wealth.
Okay.
And I just had him on my show. He sent me the book, and it was astoundingly good.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Brian Murray has a great book on apartments, crushing it in multifamily. There's a lot of good books out there, man. Gino Wickman, I should mention him. If you haven't read Traction, Getting a Grip on Your Business, you should. Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm reading Traction right now. It's an awesome book.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. You just got to go through and actually do the work in it.
Yeah, and Profit First by Mike Mikhailovich.
Yeah, that's Richter too, right?
That's what?
Or Profit First for real estate investors, David Richter.
Oh, yeah, David Richter, yeah. And I had him on the show recently, too.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yep.
All right, cool, man. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, Roger. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, everyone, for listening. Until next time, get out there, crush it, close some deals.